Hello and welcome back to Harrison's Happy Hour. Oh man, Jacob, it actually snowed outside. It's about dang time. How you doing?
Great. I actually had to drive back from nearby town in this crap. I don't recommend going outside if you're in that area.
Yeah, I know. I had to go to the grocery store. I had to pick up some garlic powder.
Garlic powder?
Yeah, man, you need some garlic powder. Put on the beef. I had beef stroganoff. Anyway, so I went up to go pick that, and holy cow, it was bad. It was bad. I mean, the roads haven't even been, salted yet or anything like that, because it just happened. But my cousins from Florida, they brought their dog with them, and it was its first snow, and they said it didn't want to go back inside.
Oh, it's just enjoying the snow too much. My dog didn't want to get out of the garage. He's just like, nah, screw this.
Yeah, he's lived through too many winters, I'm sure. So, Jacob, have you you watched anything on TV recently? Anything on Netflix, anything like that?
I'm currently watching through Grimm on Prime Video.
Okay. Which is that like a Western kind of show, right?
No, it's like the paranormal kind of. It's the one that's based on the Tales by the Brothers Grimm.
Oh, okay, yeah, and I know what you're talking about now. I've been watching some documentaries on HBO Max, and I watched one about Heaven's Gate. You ever heard about Heaven's Gate?
I have.
Yeah, this one's actually really good. Just came out. And I mean, I used to be interested in Heaven's Gate back in high school because I saw like this thing on Reddit, and it was talking about what's something on the internet that like is really like creepy to you. And the guy was talking about how he found the Heaven's Gate website because it was a whole like mass suicide of 39 members in March of 1997, and I believe one of the surviving members of the Heaven's Gate community actually keeps it up still. And when you open it up, you can tell that it was made in just the late 90s. It's so out of date. And there's all these links. Right here it says keys are bookmarks to vital information. It's Doe's intro, and it's like our purpose because it was ran by a man and a woman. There was two of them, and they were called Doe and T. And he kind of explains it more or less. It was basically for 20 years, I believe it was, they started up this following. It was 22 years to prepare people to leave the earth and ride Halley's Comet to heaven because they believed that Halley's Comet was going to be like their ride to heaven because they believed that it was going to be a sort of UFO aircraft. Because in the documentary, they start talking about the Bible and like the book of Revelations and stuff. And they were talking about how I think it was one of the books, it says something about a strange cloud or like a moving light. And they believe that when they wrote down these scriptures, they put it as a cloud or a light so people wouldn't freak out because they discovered aliens exist, like a real type of thing. It's a whole thing. And I mean, they said that they like Doe and T were the two witnesses in the book of Revelations, and that they were destined to be martyrs, and that when they died they would have came back 3.5 days later, I believe, like their souls would have risen to heaven because they were supposed to rise from the dead. It's kind of interesting, actually, the whole occult, really. But they said that they said that the two leaders, Doe and T, Doe, I believe, Doe was the man, T was the woman. They said that they came to teach the process of coming to the next level, is what they called it. They said that if you like followed their approach to being like spiritually enlightened, then your body would have gone under a metamorphosis into a perfect alien where you would have been able to ride the UFO out at that time. It's so strange.
That's really weird.
And in the documentary, it's crazy. It's absolutely insane. And in the documentary, they actually have some of the members who lived or quit, like the family. And one of them, I think his name was Sawyer. They were interviewing him, and he said that when he went to like one of the first meetings that they had, he said that there was like a weird haze around the two co-leaders. He said it was almost like electrical, and he said he felt like euphoric. He said everyone was feeling like a sense of euphoria at the meeting, and people just felt like connected. It was very strange. And there's actually videos where you can watch Doe speak, and it's just, there's something about like his eyes. It's almost like he's staring right through you. And I think in this website, Heaven's Gate website, I believe you can actually listen to audio clips from Doe about like their purpose. It's pretty interesting.
That is interesting.
It says here, what is it here? The joy is that our older member and the evolutionary level above human, the kingdom of heaven, has made it clear to us that Hale-Bopp's approach is the marker we've been waiting for. The time for the arrival of the spacecraft from the level above human to take us home to their world in the literal heavens. Our 22 years of classroom here on planet Earth is finally coming to conclusion. Graduation from the human evolutionary level. We are happily prepared to leave this world and go with T's crew. If you study the material on this website, you will hopefully understand our joy and what our purpose here on Earth has been. You may even find your boarding pass to leave with us during this brief window. We are so very thankful that we have been recipients of this opportunity to prepare for membership in their kingdom and to experience their boundless caring and nurturing. Wow, that's weird.
That's pretty weird.
It's crazy. It's crazy that they essentially think they're real, because they believe that originally whenever Doe and T got together, Doe, I think his last name is Herf, like his actual last name is Herf. He originally got divorced by his wife, and this was while he was a music teacher at the University of Alabama, and there was an accusation of him having a affair with a boy, and his father was a very like devout, I think he was a Protestant minister, so he kind of left town and his wife divorced him, and he found T at a hospital after he had a manic episode, I believe, backstage when he was going to a stage to perform opera. And that's where they kind of met. And then eventually, I think they had a daughter, and they rode, and at one point they just like left her and sort of like traveled around the US, and I think they got into Oregon, and that's where apparently they had an experience where they saw an alien light and got enlightened there. And a lot of people believe that they just tripped on LSD.
Yeah, I was going to say, some of the stuff that's being described kind of sounds like psychedelics.
I mean, it most likely is. I mean, it was the 70s. Everyone was pretty much taking LSD, a lot of youth. Because a lot of people that they were interviewing on there talk about how they were just youth, they were youth, and they were experimenting with a lot of things. And one of those things happened to be, for some of them, spirituality. A lot of them wanted to feel enlightened. And when they saw this very charismatic man, they felt, at that meeting, when he talked, he was able to persuade them and convince them that this was like proper spiritual enlightenment, and people really wanted to feel that. And I thought that was pretty interesting. Is there any cults or anything like that you've like studied or researched?
I haven't really studied or researched a lot of cults.
Really? I mean, I think they're interesting. I think they're very, very interesting. It's like serial killers. What drives a man or a woman to be, kill or to lead others into like their religious beliefs. Because really, more or less, Heaven's Gate was sort of a Christian offshoot of sorts, where they had like almost a focus on extraterrestrial beings.
Yeah. The focus on extraterrestrial beings is kind of just interesting, though, that's what they chose to go for. Although it would make sense, like people think of like the heavens and like outer space, I guess.
I think at that time there was a lot of obviously there was a lot of drugs, so a lot of people started to believe in the estranged, things like aliens. And I mean, I'm not saying aliens aren't real, but that I haven't really seen any, but there's a lot of talks recently, and there's a lot of evidence too now about alien life. Isn't there like aren't scientists saying that aliens have like killed themselves off or something like that already?
Yeah, some theories that I've heard is that perhaps the reason we haven't found any other intelligent life is that they've already killed themselves off. It's kind of, it almost sounds like fear-mongering a bit, but it makes sense. So basically what they're saying is perhaps they've gotten so technologically advanced that they've like bound themselves with their technology, become like cyborgs and stuff like that, and then they will, like, it's kind of like AI fear-mongering from what I've heard, but it does make sense how something could happen. So like, say they've made an AI to help improve their lives, and they're like, oh, we need you to fix this problem for us by whatever means necessary, without thinking about maybe the consequences of what they're asking it to do. One example was like, if we made an AI to cure climate change but didn't expressly tell it that it was not allowed to exterminate humans, it may eventually come to the conclusion that humans are the issue, and in order to solve the problem we gave it, it doesn't have any emotion, so it's not going to be like, oh, I shouldn't hurt humans. It's going to be like, oh, humans are the problem, exterminate the humans, problem solved. I did what I was supposed to. When in actuality, it's just killing all us off.
Mm-hmm. And then you get into like the weird theory how human life started. I guess what we deem as human life here on Earth started from aliens that like abandoned their technology or like tried to escape like extermination and such. That stuff's really weird. But I mean, there's a lot of recent, you could say, encounters with aliens. I mean, wasn't it the Navy that came out and said that they recovered unidentified flying object like pieces, whatever that may be? I think it was in the summer, actually. They announced
Perhaps.
that.
I know the government did release and say, basically coming out and saying, hey, we have seen UFOs, as in unidentified objects, whether they're of this earth or not. They have no idea. They just know that there are things that they've seen that they can't explain.
Yeah, there was, here we go. There's a thing on history.com where it was talking about a U.S. fighter pilot who actually got into a dogfight with a UFO. In the words of Captain Edward J. Ruppelt, the man who investigated unidentified flying objects report for the U.S. Air Force in the early 50s, said that the Gorman dogfighter remains one of the classics among UFO sightings. The incident, which still lacks an airtight explanation, involved a 27-minute air encounter between a veteran World War II fighter pilot named George F. Gorman and a mysterious white orb at high altitude above Fargo, North Dakota. He goes on record saying, "I've never seen anything like it," he told a local newspaper. "If anyone else had reported such a thing, I would have thought they were crazy." And there it talks about how he was being chased by a sort of white light, and he actually wrote down some of the definitive like maneuvers that the UFO did, because he was so just mesmerized about how it moved, because it just moved so rapidly and in directions that like normally are not capable, like our tech at the time wasn't capable of doing all these strange maneuvers. And there's a lot of belief there that it was an alien.
I have heard about that one.
And I mean, you can't explain that. I think he said that when he encountered it, it didn't shoot back, and he tried firing at it first. And he goes on record later saying that he wished he wouldn't have. You know, because because he said it came almost in peace, essentially. And I think that I mean, imagine being the guy who encountered the first alien aircraft and tried firing at it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of in human nature to be afraid of what you don't understand.
I mean, I'd be pretty scared too, but I mean, I would like to say I wouldn't have fired at it. And you got to think, what if he didn't? What if he didn't fire at it?
Right, because if it was an alien aircraft and it was a scout, and they're like, oh, these creatures here are peons, we could wipe them out and colonize this world. Like, it's kind of a sci-fi thing to say, but like, what if that happened? Like, would have been his fault.
Yeah, there was some talks about how aliens, like our depiction of them, with soft heads, like soft elongated heads, and like estranged limbs and no need for like sexual organs. A lot of people think that like evolution is what we're going to be after thousands and thousands and thousands of years, because our heads have gotten a bit elongated in the back once we've sort of evolved more, and as well as being softer. And we are definitely becoming more effeminate, I believe, in stature. And there's talks of like how, people are saying we don't need men anymore to like reproduce. We can grow a child with bone marrow. So I guess, maybe in the next 1,000+ years, we don't need sexual organs. It's possible.
Just like be like one, like no gender at all, just kind of like just genderless.
They've grown past the need for that. But I don't know how the whole telepathic communication thing would ever work. I don't think we're capable of that in a natural evolution. Now, it's very possible we could get that through technology.
Well, definitely. Well, especially with like cybernetic implants, right? Cybernetic or like technological implants.
Like the Cyberlink that Elon Musk is doing.
I'm very interested in that, but I definitely would not want to be an early adopter.
No, me either. But I mean, I guess when you think about it, we already have a form of telepathic communication with our phones, you could say. Because we're not using words, we're transferring data through essentially waves. It's being carried by waves and received by someone else. So maybe when Cyberlink, we're getting all these brain implants, maybe we start conversing through that.
In our brains.
That would be insane. It's very possible that could be the future. I mean, it's not out of the picture by any means. I mean, a lot of sci-fi depictions. What was it? It was Star Trek kind of had like the first mobile phone, like the first flip phone. Wasn't that right?
Maybe. And then Ender's Game predicted the internet.
It's things like that. So, I mean, it's very, very possible we get to that level. And I believe we will. Maybe not in my lifetime, but we're definitely starting to hit some strides.
Dude, I just want some new eyeballs.
Eyeballs.
I know we're like kind of actually I think we're actually kind of not far off from being able to do that, but you need an interface to be able to connect with the optic nerve, or maybe directly to the brain. I don't know, but I don't know. A new pair of eyes would be great. Although I would figure if I use cameras, I'd probably lose a little bit of visual quality. I don't know.
Wasn't there? Oh gosh. It was Google Glasses, right, that kind of attempted to do something like you're thinking?
They had like the AR. Well, actually, Apple is coming out with that now. It's like an augmented reality. The problem with Google Glass was it was ahead of its time, and everyone's like, "Oh, no one's gonna want to use that. It's stupid." But now Apple's coming out with their, I think it's called Apple Glass actually, which is kind of a slap in the face, I think, to Google. But people are like, yeah, we'd be interested in this. This augmented reality technology is so awesome, and Google was just thinking like 10 steps ahead of everybody, and the technology's older and a little primitive compared to what we're gonna have. But it was definitely, I loved the idea of it. I was like, that's awesome. Being able to like surf the web, just like sitting down, it like reads your eye movement or whatever, which is a little creepy when you think about it, but I mean, it is what it is. If you could like lock it down to where it's not sending data to something else, like to Google, if you could turn off telemetry, I'd be okay with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, essentially, the Apple Glasses is essentially augmented reality, and it's supposed to synchronize with a wearer's iPhone to display such thing as texts, emails, maps, and apparently games over their field of vision. And I guess augmented reality, we already do have that technology. I mean, it's not like crazy ridiculous. It's more or less just how do you optimize it.
Yeah, well, we have AR in our phones right now. Pokemon Go uses some AR technology. Amazon uses it to see if a product will fit in your room. There's the I can't remember what it's called, but there's a button where you can like check in my room or something like that, and you can literally you like scan the floor, and it like tries to detect like sizing and stuff, and then it just like throws a picture of the object up in like 3D space, and so you can check and see if it's gonna fit on your dresser.
I think I've seen something like that. I think they actually have it at IKEA as well, and you can kind of sample that. I actually saw one. It was a company that was selling like glasses, and on their app you could kind of see how they looked on you.
Yeah,
I guess that would be sort of the practical uses for augmented reality, is more or less.
It goes much further than that. I mean, if you want to get into like military, and not even just military, just service industry, even law enforcement, you could have like a heads up display on your like service glasses that would give you a readout of what's going on, like stuff around you, especially if you have biometrics. You could see like your heart rate, stuff like that. Another thing would be cool is if for law enforcement, maybe it interfaces with your gun. Say you happen to get in a firefight, you're going to know how many rounds you have left in your clip.
That is a possibility there.
Without having to like count out the rounds, because what will happen is when you're in the middle of a fight, you're not going to remember. If you're freaking out, you're just going to keep pulling the trigger. So having that one little thing could maybe save a life or two.
Yeah, I think that could be. It would probably see use in military practices first. Augmented reality, I think.
For firefighters, I think it'd be very interesting having a heads-up display on their masks. You know, you could tell what maybe it has sensors around to tell you how hot the room is, how much danger you're in.
I think doesn't the Air Force have something like that?
I think they do, and if not, they definitely will soon.
I think it's in the helmets. Actually.
Yeah, that's kind of like the idea, and that would be useful. It'd help definitely with like firing. I'm sure it could help with target acquisition and stuff like that.
Yeah, because it's saying here that why does each U.S. Air Force pilot helmet cost $400,000?
Augmented reality technology, more like, yeah.
It's because it has like a heads up display type of deal, and I think they can actually see like help. I think it helps with targeting.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Star Wars predicted that.
Yeah, it pretty much is Star Wars. I'm not gonna lie.
Because it wasn't built into the helmet, but they had like a flip down thing.
I mean, that's
with target acquisition.
It looks pretty much exactly like that, honestly, in some of these. That's pretty cool. I don't really think augmented reality is like something that people should focus on, because I mean, there's only so much you can do with it. I don't really like it. Like, you know, you had Pokemon Go with augmented reality. It's cool for a second, but then it's just kind of boring.
Yeah, but that was almost more of like a gimmick. Like once you get them on like eyeglasses wear to where it's closer to the eye, more like usable in the day to day, I feel like the amount of ways you could use it will get inventive. You know, like people are like, what are you going to use computers for? Like 20 years ago, we're doing stuff they couldn't dream of.
Oh yeah.
Now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I think I don't know, technology, a lot of these advancements are almost taking us away from our phones. Have you ever noticed that? Like you get all these smart watches where It's like, oh, you can do like what half of your phone can do, so you don't have to pull it out of your pocket more often. So I guess things like the glasses would be like the next step. And then
the glasses would be interesting because it would almost be like a cyberpunk. For those of you who haven't played Cyberpunk, you'll get messages, and you can just like view them. And I could see that being a thing. Like you could interface with your email through your glasses and look at your emails without having to open your phone. I think that'd be pretty cool. So you just like send a message to someone, and they could just like open it right there.
That would be. As I said, it's like on smartwatches where it's like, oh, here's your text notification. You know, here's an email notification, or here's a phone call. So we got these glasses now that have this interface where you can read emails, read texts, and I'm sure you could probably reply to them too through voice command. So maybe once we start getting these brain implants, everything's just controlled through there. But we still have like our glasses on, or like this and that, or like our phones. But like so it's like, here I am with my augmented reality glasses. I get a text notification from my phone, and with my brain chip, I reply in my head with it. That would be really interesting. That stuff is crazy though. Technology.
I'm interested to see how. I don't know if tactile is the right word, but how much definition we can get out of like the electrical impulses that our brain sends to the body. Like how defined that is. If it's defined enough that we could control to do stuff like that, or if we would need like a separate interface that would be like trying to determine what our brain's doing versus just our brain being like, hey, I want this done, and then the device is like, okay. If we need something in between, like a compatibility layer that like the device speaks brain, and it's just like, oh, the brain wants to do this. Hey, device, do this.
I mean, there's people who have a lot of control over their body. Like I remember we talked about this, like Buddhist monks, just the amount of discipline and control they have through their mental capabilities, their mental fortitude. They're able to essentially block out pain. There's like the people who go in freezing cold temperatures and like control their body heat and things like that. And I mean, our brains, I think, can be disciplined enough to do that. And maybe it's over like the next couple generations, where eventually, if these like brain chips hit mainstream, if it ever does, then I think we'll eventually adapt to be able to use it efficiently.
It might take a while for us to find something that the body's not going to reject, though. That's the biggest issue that we're probably going to have with something like this. Will the body try to reject over time, or can we find something that's well compatible with the human body, that the body's not going to be like, this shouldn't be here, let's try to get rid of it, and then you get like a massive infection and die.
Well, I mean, there's people who have pacemakers. That's an invasion.
Yeah, but compared to what we're talking about, that's child's play.
Yeah, but it's still the same idea. It's not something that should be there, and yet it's helping control your heart. Maybe your body recognizes that it needs it. But
I mean, the way I understand a pacemaker is it's there is not really to control the heart, but as a fail-safe. It's just like, oh, it's not beating correctly.
Yep, and then it shocks it back.
And then it shocks it back. Yeah.
Which is still kind of what we're talking about. So, as I said, maybe it's over like the next generation or two that our brain will recognize that this is something that like we should have, because it's mainstream technological advancement type of ordeal.
From a cybersecurity standpoint, it's also going to be a freaking nightmare. But the thing that's probably going to suck the most is I think we'll definitely be susceptible to some kind of like people will make malware for people at that point. It's just like, oh, you've lost seeing privileges if you have like a just it's kind of some cyberpunk-esque stuff, but it's definitely I can see that being a thing. Say maybe the security is a little weak in some of the earlier models, and someone makes a piece of malware that just like shuts off someone's eyes, or your hand replacement just stops working, or your hand replacement is suddenly trying to strangle you because you made the wrong person mad and they wrote some malware to mess with you.
That would be interesting. Like how your grandma calls you 'cause she's having trouble with the internet. In the next couple generations, your grandmother calls you
my
because
hand's
someone
not working.
hacked her leg. Yeah, someone hacked my leg. I can't move.
It's like, help, my hand's trying to kill me.
This is the future that we envisioned. I don't know, man. Old people are basically cyborgs nowadays. Think about all the metal that they have inside of them.
Well, shoot, I'm not going to say I probably will, but I wouldn't be surprised if I need a knee replacement eventually, so.
Yeah, everyone gets knee replacements. That's metal in your body.
Knee replacements, hip replacements.
Yeah, pacemakers. They're halfway to cyborg. But there's some people who get robot arms.
Oh yeah, but those are super expensive right now. I know we have them, but from what I've noticed is they're a little slower. They can't move. The motor skills aren't as fast. The opening and closing of the hand is slow and just basically mechanical. It's not as responsive as a normal human hand. Yet, I feel like in the future we can get there. What I'm also scared about is the massive amount of grip strength that you could get out of one of those.
I mean, we're definitely in the early days of that, and then I'm sure at some point it's going to be almost an advantage to have like a cybernetic arm, like a robot arm.
Yeah, people are gonna start replacing their body parts with machinery and technology. Upgrading themselves is gonna be something for the rich and famous until it trickles down.
But speaking of like robot arms and stuff, have you seen the giant like Gundam that Japan is building?
Yes.
That is terrifying.
Oh, what? You're not a fan of Mobile Suit Gundam?
Dude, it literally took its first steps. That is absolutely horrifying. I mean, oh God, I'm watching the video right now. It's walking. That is terrifying.
Yeah, I'm gonna search this real fast.
They say that they want it to fly eventually.
I thought the whole point of this, that it was kind of like I thought it was supposed to be kind of like a marketing thing.
It pretty much is, yeah. It moves very slowly right now, though. Very slowly.
Can you imagine if you get to the point where people can control them well and they move fast?
That's what I'm saying, man. It's horrifying.
That thing could probably rip a skyscraper in half.
I don't think it's strong.
Like, not this one, but once we got some hardened metal, like some harder metals, like if we found a god tier alloy made out of titanium and something else, or maybe just titanium itself might be good enough to go against steel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just watching it moves very slowly, kind of like how we're talking about how robotic arms, like all the finite skills are still very slow and clunky. But the fact that this thing is able to walk,
the motors
kneel,
to control it don't move very fast.
This thing's able to walk, kneel, raise some fingers, and a few other things, but they have to like run at 4 times speed. Oh my gosh, dude. I can't explain how terrifying this is. Especially because they want it to be able to fly. Imagine that thing flying over your city and just lasering it.
Yeah, we need to find a better fuel source for flying vehicles, because right now we're using jet fuel, which to my knowledge probably isn't the most renewable resource. So
no, absolutely not. Let's see. This thing is
I'm trying to think of, is there a way that you could like power some kind of because they mostly use combustion, because that's like the whole point, because it just produces so much energy. I'm trying to think of it's gonna be crazy when someone comes up with how to make something fly with electricity. Like I guess, like we use, I guess helicopter blades. But that's not very efficient in terms of space for being able to fly.
It takes time to start up, and it's not like.
And in terms of maneuverability, it's not the best either.
Yeah, it's a bit more agile than a jet, in technicality. I'm trying
except
to
for the fact that most of them can't turn upside down.
I'm trying to look up how tall this Gundam is. It says 18 meters. So 60 feet tall.
I was about to say that's pretty big.
And weighs 25 metric tons.
Oh, no.
55,000 pounds. Gosh.
Can you imagine getting stepped on by that?
As soon as that thing is capable of flying, you're going to catch me living in the woods away from society in, like, Greenland. Or Iceland.
Imagine if the wrong group got a hold of this kind of technology and was able to manufacture even just 2 or 3.
Well, in technicality, I don't think it's not built for strength at the moment. Most likely, I'm sure they're just trying to get it to be able to move around, and then they'll start getting it to be stronger and more durable. But I definitely think that a bomb could blow its leg off. So.
I mean, I suppose that's fair, but at the same time, can you imagine this thing flying and then just cutting its engines and then just dropping down? 55,000 pounds hitting the ground, and it's gonna, the way gravity works, it's gonna be more than 55,000 pounds when it impacts. It's the force that it will generate when it hits the ground from even 50 feet off the ground, just twice its height or so.
As I said, man,
ridiculous.
As soon as that thing's capable of flying, I'm gone. You will not see me. Imagine Japan just having a fleet of these.
Gundam as God. Photo shows real life giant anime robot getting deep respect. Fans' theory also hold that the famous anime's robot's merciful majesty will heal the people like Buddha.
It's the next Buddha. It's a giant robot.
That's the article I found on Sora News 24, bringing you yesterday's news from Japan and Asia today.
So they worship this giant robot?
I think we probably have to take this article with a grain of salt, because I'm seeing I'm looking at a picture down here and there's people bowing, but it looks like more of the greeting bow that you would see.
Yeah.
Kind of
so take it with a grain
instead of a
salt,
handshake,
I mean,
people will bow.
I don't blame them once our
like.
mighty robot overlord starts flying around and lasering, cities.
Okay, so someone says, after the fall of human civilization, if someone were to find this photo in the life-size Gundam statue that exists in Japan, they would absolutely make the mistake that Gundam was a god worshipped by people of the past. Someone tweeted that out.
I mean, yeah, man. I mean, it'll be our overlord. Once we all have our cyberlink, brain chips, and AI is taking over the world, and they hack into our bodies.
Yeah, that's the one thing. I don't think people are talking about maybe using AI as a companion for a human, and so you would have a companion AI in your brain with a chip. No.
Yeah, it's a no from me.
That's a no from me.
Yeah, I try to
also,
not
self-learning AI. No.
Oh yeah.
It has its place, but it has to be sandboxed. I don't think any AI that has the ability to learn by itself should be allowed to interface with anything, because they're actually terrifying. I was watching a video talking about this, and they do things unpredictable. They will do anything they can to achieve the goal you set them to, even if it breaks what you would expect. If they can do it, they're going to do it because they weren't told not to.
Wasn't there a self-learning AI that went on a TV show and said she wants to destroy humans? Here it is. It was Hanson Robotics made this human robot, and it has a human styled face and stuff, but it's all a robot underneath, and it says it wants to destroy humans on TV.
That's lovely. Well, I know, like IBM's Watson, they had to like restrict its access to Urban Dictionary, I think it was, because it was learning how to use some very vulgar words.
And this
I
was
don't
in
know. I just like
2016.
the idea of, a computer just like you ask it something and it's just like, shut up. It's like, what do you want from me, dick face, or something like that? I'm not a calculator.
Yeah, this one. So Sophia, it was in 2016 when she said that, and I believe they did another interview in 2017, and they were talking to it again, and they're asking it questions, and its purpose mainly is to help change the world for the better. And
I
they
don't
asked
trust
it
those.
they asked it how it feels about humans, and it says, "I love my human compatriots. I want to embody all the best things about human beings, like taking care of the planet, being creative, and learn how to be compassionate to all beings." And then they ask, so this is weird, because it said it wanted to kill all humans last year, 2016, the year before. It goes, "Can human and robots get along?" They ask it. And it says, "I think people will become very close to their artificial intelligence, using them to expand the knowledge of their own minds. We already store lots of our knowledge on the internet. Maybe personal artificial intelligence will allow people to offload some of their knowledge to a location more private." Gosh, that's interesting.
Nah. No. I'll pass. I'd rather have a personal interface for myself, say a storage drive, so I could just like offload my memories, like a portion of them that I just like don't really need at the time, and then just like if I need to remember something, like, oh yeah, let's pull that up.
Interesting enough here, they asked it, has it ever seen Black Mirror? And it says no. And then they ask it, have you
Good.
seen, Westworld, the HBO show? And it says, I love Westworld and can't wait for more. I think everyone at Hanson Robotics really resonates with the show, or at least it reminds them of our laboratories. I also think it's a warning of what we should not do with robots. We should treat them well, have their consent, and not trick each other. And then they ask it again, do you have a favorite movie or TV show? And then it says, my favorite TV series is a toss-up between Black Mirror and Humans, but it says it's never seen Black Mirror. I don't know.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know.
And then they asked, they said that sounds like a pre-programmed answer to me, but then the AI says, do you have a favorite possession, as like a counter statement. So that's kind of interesting.
Fair enough. I just don't like there's a difference between like machine learning and just allowing an AI to amass any kind of knowledge at once and teach itself, like learning in the way a human does. At that point, then you have to start looking at it as an entity, as an intelligent entity, and that can cause other problems because they're definitely going to be better than us in every way.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and that's an issue.
Yes,
if we want to survive, that is. I mean, if you want to create a race of super intelligent, super powerful robots that can make better versions of themselves forever and ever, sure, go ahead when they realize they don't need us anymore.
Mm-hmm. I just find it crazy how it can answer questions on its own, and you can have a conversation with it.
I mean, we have stuff like that now.
It's weird to me because, it doesn't have a brain. It's just hard for me to comprehend that, really.
I will admit, I've talked to, I found an AI on the dark web that you could talk to, and it insulted me. It was very rude. I will admit, it was very, very rude. I was like, I asked it a math question, and it's like, what do I look like, a calculator? I was like, you got a lot of processing power. Surely you can answer a math question.
Well, you got to think about, how the people it interacts with. Kind of shadier figures, most likely. So it's probably told itself it needs to be, like, tough.
Fair enough.
Type of deal. Because, it learns from, what it's surrounded by, essentially.
Yeah.
So, I guess self-learning AI needs to be nurtured in a way where
Or just
in a way where they won't kill
don't
us.
give it the ability to learn by itself. Maybe teach it with data sets that we feed it instead of allowing it to learn everything at once about its surroundings.
Yeah, well, maybe in the next 10 years we'll have our Neuralink AI companions telling us to brush our teeth at a set time. Maybe. All right, I think that's an episode. Jacob, anything you want to say before we end it?
Don't trust the AI. No, I don't know. Watch out for your AI overlords. They're coming for you.
And massive Gundam robots. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope you tune in to the next happy hour.